What in the Handmaid's Tale did I just watch? Now, this is Kansas City Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker. Now, that name is so funny to say, right? Butker. Anyway, he ended up having a video go viral just today. I came across this video of him giving a commencement speech at a Catholic college over the weekend. And let's just say this video is quite interesting. I will fill you in on my thoughts about it at the end.
How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace what...
I mean, as you can see from my face there, I listen, there's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of thoughts, not all negative. So don't stop watching if you're a man, because it's not all negative. I always like to see both sides of everything, right? There's always it's two sides to everything in life. But let me just start by saying this is also the same person that when asked about Taylor Swift, this is the same footballer that said when he was at Georgia Tech, the first thing he thought was, I hope they get married and they start a family. So, he wants your girl Taylor knocked up and having a family. That for all the Swifties out there, he's a Swiftie, he said. And he believes that they should just, this is what he would dream for them, right? So this is a person that obviously has no issues talking about his personal beliefs, his feelings, and I'd go further to say even his ideals for what society should look like. I did watch the entire speech because, the last thing you want to do is just watch a soundbite and just form an opinion based on a soundbite. And there were a lot of things he said that it was definitely leaning more on, this is me, I'm talking about myself, which seemed a little bit narcissistic for me. It didn't seem like he was coaching the people that were graduating, the students. It seemed like he was more focused on his own ideals and being able to use that platform or that opportunity to just sound off on what he believes is wrong with society and that men are failing and not being masculine and that basically women, the roles have been reversed and you're graduating and you're getting a degree and doing all these great things, but essentially never forget that the morals of society falls on having nuclear family, so to speak, having, this idealistic world of mom and dad at home, all of this stuff that really goes along with a very traditional mindset. And I'm totally for that. Like I grew up with parents and I grew up with a man and a woman in a house, and I see what he's saying. I get the understanding that he's just trying to say we're getting away from this idea in this society and it's bad. But I just did not believe that this was the platform, at a student graduation where these people have worked so hard for their degrees. They're paying all this money out the wazoo. Plus, it's a private college. I mean, you can imagine what the tuition was. And the last thing you want to hear is about how you are blessed. Like you're blessed because your wife gave up on her career to stay at home and be a mom. The other thing I wanted to point out was that there's something really, to me, immature about when men speak for their wives. Like they say, my wife would say, or this goes both ways. My husband would say, because it comes off a little bit pretentious. Like I don't want anybody speaking for me. That's just how I feel. Like, let me speak for myself. Now, if you've told me something that I can definitely say that you've said as a quote, that's a little different. Or if I'm expressing my feelings, saying, I know that I feel the support from my wife. I feel that my wife has sacrificed a lot for me. That's a little different than saying, my wife would say that this is the best thing, that, putting me first was more important, and putting the family first was more important than her career. It's almost like I wanted the wife to jump out of her seat and say, yes, I agree with this. Like, I concur, because otherwise I'm like, there's a lot of men out there, fellas and ladies, that are hostile and they're aggressors and they don't even let their wife speak. And he comes off that way to me. He comes off like a man that I could see controlling the situation to the point where I don't think his wife had a choice. I don't think she had a choice whether or not she was going to go out to work or stay home. I think he probably was very like, I'm making enough money. You just need to stay home and raise our kids. And, there's all these women out there that would jump on that. And don't get me wrong. I've had, like I said in one of my videos, I've had both these situations where I was a working woman out working with my own nanny, my own live-in nanny, making good money, having all the things I wanted, but I was burnt out. And I could totally agree with the fact that being a stay-at-home mother has been way pleasant for me, way easier, and obviously you need a man that makes a good amount of money in order to support that situation. But at the same token, the world that we reside in right now is not a world where I feel a lot of men and women will see eye to eye on this issue for a number of reasons. We have a lot of women being told on a daily basis, go out, make a living, support yourself so you never get bogged down with somebody talking or speaking on behalf of you. That way you always have your own bread, you have your own income. And there's parts of it that I 100% agree with why women need to do that for a lot of reasons. The main one being security, knowing that if something happens to her husband, she has a fallback plan. And some would argue that it's also for violence. If that man gets violent with you, you have a fallback plan. You have something you can fall back on in case the situation turns. Because sometimes people start off a relationship really good and then they end up being completely a nightmare to deal with. And if you don't have anything, you don't have a savings, you don't have anything for yourself, you're going to find yourself in a very dark place as a woman, because it's not easy to get back into the workforce once you've been a stay-at-home mom. So I think that's where he kind of lost me, this idea of preaching on behalf of his wife. Just think there was better ways that he could have said it. He said himself, he's an introvert. He's somebody that, normally doesn't talk like this, but he feels this is his time. He's going to start speaking up and saying things and not being scared. And bravo, welcome to the show. I mean, we all need to get like this. We're not afraid to sound off. But I do wish that women would be more feminine and allow men to actually take the lead and take some of these positions that are out there for men, instead of the women scooping in and taking up all the jobs. Most men, Caucasian men, fighting, competing with jobs that are higher position jobs with women, because there's so many women in the marketplace now that are taking these top tier, top paying jobs from men. So now you have a society that's not balanced, because you have men that are vying for the same positions with women and not able to get them. But I want to leave you on a note, because I did say at the beginning of this, what in The Handmaid's Tale? And I want to just educate you a little bit on Margaret Atwood and why this gave me the Handmaid's Tale vibe, because we're living in a very dystopian time. Talk about Margaret Atwood and The Handmaid's Tale. I can't tell you the amount of young girls and women that have been brainwashed in society to believe that their rights are going to be stripped from them, and that they're going to be forced to have babies, and they won't be able to have abortions, and that they're going to be forced into situations that will put them into servitude to men. I'm not kidding. When I tell you it's a lot of them. And when you have books like The Handmaid's Tale, and you have dystopian novels and movies, and we get bombarded daily on Netflix with, movie after movie of doomsday type scenarios or end of world type scenarios. What do you think that does to the psyche of young people? Although at the end of the novel, one would get this idea that was this all fictional, or Is there some facts to this? And she said that she drew this from historical and totalitarian regimes. It was inspired by real historical events, including the rise of, like I said, totalitarian regimes in the 20th century, such as Nazi Germany, Stalinist Russia, Japan. I even think of Iran and how they, forced the women there to do certain things. Iran was never that way. Iran changed over the years. In the 70s, Iranian women were able to dress just as you and me here in the United States. She aimed to explore how such regimes could control and oppress individuals, particularly women. Now, one of the things that she talks about is women's rights and feminist concerns. And during the 80s, that was a time of significant feminism or feminist activism. And The Handmaid's Tale reflects Atwood's concerns about the fragility of women's rights, the potential for backlash against any gains in gender equality. Now, the reason this is important is because we're seeing men say, we don't like this. Even some women saying, we don't like this. I know a lot of women right now that are like, who came up with this idea that we should be working 9 to 5s? So Atwood also drew from, people like George Orwell's 1984 or Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. But she did say that the underlying theme explores power, control, resistance. These are all things we're seeing in today's day and age. That young man was setting a resistance move right there. He was saying, I don't like what's happening in the world with gender roles and the chaos created by this system. It is wrong. And I want to say for you guys graduating to remember that. Have that in the back of your head as an option, that you can have that. It's just you need to want it and not make your society think that it's bad to want it. You see what I'm saying? And I think for many of us, we need to be given that option. We need to be given an option to feel that there's security enough for us to want to have a family. You have even men checking out of this position saying, I don't want to have a family because I can hardly take care of myself anymore. If I want to have a family, that would mean my wife would probably have to work. And we don't want to pay $40,000 in daycare charges. So you see, right now, I think him saying this speech is just, it's a resistance move. And I think that's what he was trying to do. I don't take any offense to the video. I find it interesting because it comes at a time where right now, anything can go. If Biden gets reelected, I would definitely predict the downfall of America on a whole. And I keep saying this to people around me. They use fear-mongering tactics on young girls, telling them they're going to have all their rights taken away. They force kids to question their own identity. They give women this idea, this fake notion that they will find the best freedom by having a corporate job or working 60 hours a week because they're at least secure, And then do they find happiness in that? I don't know any woman that's like, I just enjoy working 9 to 5. A lot of these young girls are like, I don't like this. I really don't like this. I don't want to work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever. I don't want to be working all the time. And a lot of kids have checked out and don't want families. They just don't want it altogether because it's a burden on them if they are to have a career and to be able to save and have a retirement. She was particularly concerned with the ways in which religious ideologies could be used to justify oppression and control women. Just take a look around the globe. What was it? Saudi Arabia? They just had the ability to start driving cars. Like women were able to drive cars in I think it was 2018. It might have been right before the pandemic. And well, don't even get me into the tribalism communities in Africa that treat women as just, a body, to have children. Some of them don't respect women's genitalia. They do all sorts of horrific things to women. So women in general, I think, it's an issue. I think when you watch the video and you listen to what he's saying, it will trigger a lot of feminists. It will trigger a lot of women that don't believe a wife's place is in the kitchen or barefoot and pregnant. So she wrote this book. She also talked about the environment and degradation of the environment and political corruption. And if you haven't watched Handmaid's Tale, it's a hard watch for me. This is just, this is so degrading to women, to watch women be forced to be impregnated. And it's a little over the top for me. I don't think it will happen, but I do feel that if we don't, as women, have children anymore, it could come a time where they really try to convince us to.